The incredible blind date joke led to a touching surprise proposal from a single dad CEO. Jake stepped through the door of his modest Chicago apartment, the familiar decor washed in the warm glow of the evening light. It had been a long, grueling day filled with investor meetings and decisions about his startup, but nothing tired him more than the weight of expectation, both from the boardroom and society. He paused, the creeping doubt gnawing at him. Could he really manage being a tech CEO and a single dad to Lily? The thought was heavier than the laptop bag slung over his shoulder. As he rounded the corner, he found Lily sprawled across the sofa, fast asleep with her teddy bear clutched tightly, her innocent face a balm to his frayed nerves. But even in this serene moment, the relentless roar of his worries flooded back. Was he doing enough for her? He felt the heat from the judgmental glances, the whispers that lingered in the air whenever he checked his daughter into school events or ventured on playdates. Did others see him as an outlier, incapable of managing both worlds? It was a tightrope walk that left him questioning his every move. Moments later, his phone buzzed with a call from his well-meaning friends. "Come on, Jake, you have to get out," they insisted, setting him up on a blind date. Reluctance settled in once again. Could he divert his focus, even momentarily, from his never-ending to-do list? A small voice nudged at his chest, suggesting that maybe he should accept, that perhaps he needed some semblance of a normal life beyond the corporate chaos. But with every buzz of the phone, the anxiety clawed deeper. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As he arrived at the downtown restaurant, the laughter of diners and the clinking of glasses assaulted his senses, amplifying his nerves. Then he spotted her, Sarah, her laughter like music. The moment felt electric, but the nagging doubts returned. Could he juggle his career while possibly forging a romantic connection? Would he seem inadequate in her eyes, a fragile CEO trying to balance everything? Their conversation flowed effortlessly, laced with jokes and shared parenting woes. But as they traded smiles, he felt the pang of fear return. Could he let her in, or would his insecurities cause them to drift apart? Just as they laughed over a ridiculous viral proposal idea, Jake realized he was standing on the precipice of something real, something fragile. Yet every heartbeat screamed for a retreat, to take a step back and analyze the risks. Failure hovered like a storm cloud. Jake almost flinched, picturing the outcome, a rekindled rejection, a love for him but disdain for his life choices. Yet everything inside beckoned him to embrace the nostalgia of the feeling, even as uncertainty churned like a tidal wave. Could he confront his fears and harness the same determination that propelled his career to rekindle hope for love? Only time would tell. And as thoughts of a future stirred in his mind, he faced the daunting realization: this could change everything. But would he have the courage, or would he let might-have-beens remain just that? The silence around them seemed to wait in anxious anticipation, but Jake's heart raced, teetering on the edge of something exhilarating yet terrifying. The laughter danced around them, a vibrant energy that contrasted sharply with the cacophony in Jake's mind. Each moment with Sarah felt like a test. Could he balance the weight of his corporate life with the burgeoning warmth of newfound interest? His focus flickered between her words and his spiraling doubts. The way her eyes sparkled made his heart race, yet he felt a simultaneous urge to retreat. As the evening wore on, the connection between them deepened, forming an invisible thread that pulled Jake closer, drawing out the hopes he'd long buried. But insecurity tightened its grip. He couldn't shake the nagging sensation that if he let Sarah see the reality of his life, the chaos of managing everything, she might think twice about wanting to know him further. Would she see him as a mere oddity, a man grappling with a dual existence? Frustration bubbled within him. Why am I overthinking this? He questioned silently, gripping his glass tightly. The easy banter faded into a tumult of confusion. In his world, every decision was calculated, designed to maximize productivity and ensure success. Yet here he was wrestling with something far more superficial, where hearts and emotions dictated the rules. "Hey," Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts, gentle yet direct. "What's going on in that handsome head of yours?" Caught off guard, he hesitated before answering. Should he burden her with his fears? The prospect felt overwhelming. Instead, he chose a safer path, one he'd trod countless times, a smile paired with a half-hearted shrug. "Just thinking about work." Her brow furrowed slightly, but she didn't press further. Instead, she pivoted the conversation back to her own career, sharing anecdotes from her job that's related to marketing. As he listened, he found himself admiring her passion. Her words were infused with ambition, revealing a shared drive. Maybe connecting with someone who understood the balance of professional ambition and personal life was exactly what he needed. As they shared insights, Jake began to recognize another layer within himself, his ability to communicate, to engage meaningfully with someone outside his immediate circle. It was a skill he held in high regard, yet had largely set aside since diving deep into the chaos of corporate frameworks. He was good at building relationships in business, but here was a chance to foster real human connection. And within that realization, a flicker of resolve ignited. "I can do this," he thought, leaning into the conversation. "This is worth the risk." They strolled out of the restaurant together, and as they reached the street, a soft breeze whispered around them. Jake felt the tension in his shoulders loosen, the weight of fear slightly lifted. For the first time in what felt like ages, he could envision a route forward, not just as a CEO or a father, but as Jake, the man capable of taking a chance on both his career and, maybe, love. But just as the exhilaration of that thought settled in, his phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. Pulling it out, he noticed a flurry of messages from his team, an imminent crisis involving a major client. A single, confusing line that threatened to unravel everything he'd built. Panic surged as the looming deadline clashed with his newfound clarity. Could he return to his startup life and face the storm brewing back at the office? The moment was unbearably tense, and as he glanced over at Sarah, her face lit by the streetlight, he felt the stark contrast of his worlds collide. The time had come to face the consequences of both his personal choices and his professional commitments. Would he turn back now and sacrifice the connection blooming between them for an urgent deadline? Or would he find a way to embrace both? Jake stared down at his phone, his heartbeat drumming in his ears. The texts flashed haunting messages, concerns over contracts, risk assessments spiraling into threats of losing a critical client, the foundation of everything he had built suddenly feeling unsound. Each notification buzzed with urgency, underlining that the structure he had so painstakingly assembled was on the verge of collapse. But then he looked up at Sarah. The glow from the streetlights illuminated her face, and for an instant, the chaos in his mind receded. She was engaged in conversation, animatedly recounting a recent campaign success, her excitement palpable. The contrast between her radiance and his turmoil struck Jake, an unyielding force urging him to choose. "Do I need to go?" he pondered, the weight of responsibility pulling at him like an anchor. Yet beneath that pressure, a countervailing desire stirred. This connection felt worth fighting for. The risk of opening up to Sarah loomed large, but what was he afraid of? Would she truly see him differently if she knew the full story, or would it deepen their bond? "Jake?" Sarah's voice brought him back, her eyes darting to his face, devoid of their previous brightness. "Are you even listening?" He forced a smile, masking the turmoil inside. Her expression softened, concern creeping in. "You know you can talk to me, right? Whatever it is. I'm here." The sincerity in her words pierced through Jake's defenses, exposing a flicker of vulnerability. A decision formed in his mind, a small yet pivotal act of courage. What if sharing his burden lightened it? Perhaps opening up could rekindle the connection they were building, even if it risked creating distance. "I'll be honest," he began, keeping his voice low, gauging her reaction. "Work's a bit overwhelming right now. We've hit a snag with a client, and I'm just trying to find a balance between everything." Sarah listened intently, her brow furrowing with compassion rather than judgment. "What kind of snag?" Jake hesitated, recalling the mess unfolding back at the office. "It's complicated. I don't want to burden you." "Jake, we're getting to know each other. Let me in," she urged softly, her expression resolute. He took a deep breath, weighing his words. "We might lose a major contract because of some oversight in our proposal. It's been stressful trying to hold everything together and keep up with my responsibilities. I feel like I'm being pulled in so many directions." "Can you get it sorted?" she prodded, her tone encouraging. "Maybe," he replied, "but I feel like I can't afford any missteps. It's a lot to juggle." In her eyes, he detected not only sympathy but an understanding of his struggles. "You're doing a lot, Jake. Just remember, it's okay to ask for help, whether it's for work or anything else." He marveled at her words. It struck him how rare it was to encounter someone who didn't shy away from the chaos of life. This was an opportunity for real connection, a haven amid his corporate storm. "I guess I've been so focused on maintaining control that I forgot to lean on others," he admitted, feeling lighter with each syllable. He could see the wheels turning in her mind, and there seemed to be a dawning recognition in her gaze. Life is about balance. You can't be everything to everyone and keep yourself whole. As if animated by her words, Jake unearthed the resolve within. "I can face this challenge. I've built a company from the ground up. I can tackle this." "Exactly," she encouraged, her brightness returning. "And don't forget, you're not alone in this." In that moment, his phone buzzed again, but it no longer felt like an impending disaster. It was simply a challenge to navigate. He slipped the device back into his pocket, choosing instead to focus on Sarah, whose smile was radiant. With their conversation rekindling warmth, he envisioned their connection, how it could intertwine with his professional life, crafting a synergy he'd long wished for. Yet, just as resolve firmed, that doubt flickered back to life. Should he really invite her into his tumultuous world? The streetlights dimmed, and as he considered the next step forward, the call for connection and vulnerability beckoned him from within. And then, in the distance, the muffled sound of laughter caught his attention. In facing the journey ahead, what if letting Sarah into the chaos also led to something unexpected? How would he balance this budding relationship with the risks lurking behind his corporate facade? Jake felt buoyed by their conversation, but the echoes of stress remained at the edges of his thoughts. Sarah's optimism was infectious, yet the storm of anxiety lurking behind his resolve threatened to surge forth again. As he walked alongside her, a pleasant warmth enveloped him, a stark contrast to the tense energy from earlier. Yet beneath that warmth, he could hear the distant clamor of his responsibilities calling him back to the chaos. He took a moment to appreciate Sarah's affection for her work. Her passion was a stark reminder of what he had once felt before the pressures of leadership began to weigh him down. Could he reclaim that lost enthusiasm? The idea intrigued him. Perhaps immersing himself back into the creative process was just the remedy he needed to lighten the burden and reconnect him to his core values. "I remember when I felt like I could take on the world," he admitted, glancing at her with newfound determination. "When did things get so complicated? It feels like everything's tangled together now." "Life evolves," she said thoughtfully, "and sometimes it's our job to untangle it. Each step we take adds layers, but that doesn't mean we should let them weigh us down." Her words settled in, a quiet challenge urging him to simplify instead of succumbing to complexity. Instead of seeing his hurdles as insurmountable walls, what if he viewed them as stepping stones to something greater? Understanding this perspective required navigating a delicate balance between vulnerability and fortitude, an intricate dance he felt he was just beginning to master. As they strolled, he seized the opportunity. What as we brainstorm some creative strategies together for tackling this client issue? I could really use your perspective. I know you've had success in your campaigns, and I'd bet your approach could ignite something new. Sarah's face lit up. I would love that. Collaboration often results in innovation. Letting someone in can truly help you shine. The momentum shifted within him. Inviting her into his challenges felt like stripping away layers of armor he had grown accustomed to wearing. This wasn't merely about tackling the issue at hand, it was about embracing the connections that facilitated growth. Jake's heart raced, not from anxiety, but from a burgeoning excitement. Was this the kind of partnership he had been seeking, both professionally and personally? As they paused on a corner, Jake glanced down at his phone, the buzzing frantic once more. With each interruption, he felt that familiar tightness coil in his chest. I have to check that, he muttered, a wave of apprehension washing over him. Jake, it's okay, Sarah reassured him, her voice steadying. You don't have to escape into your phone. Just talk to me. We can conquer this. He hesitated, torn between the urgency of the messages and this moment of shared possibility. Taking a deep breath, he adamantly pressed the button to silence the buzz. You're right, maybe I've been too consumed by work. It's exhausting. Together, they found a nearby cafe, an oasis from the storm outside. As they settled down, Sarah began to pose questions about his work ethic, management style, and even his creative inspirations, not in a prying manner, but with genuine curiosity. Each query felt like peering into a mirror, offering him glimpses of a leader he could yet become, one who could re-engage with purpose. I've always prided myself on problem solving, he confessed, but I've come to realize I've been directing my energy in the wrong places. I need to drive it into meaningful connections, not just results. Sarah nodded vigorously. That's the essence of leadership. It's not just about the numbers. It's about elevating those around you and finding joy in it. You can bend the rules without breaking them if you're willing to innovate. Jake's heart raced as he absorbed her insights. It hadn't just been about fixing a mistake. It had become a revelation about how he interacted with every aspect of his life, professional or personal. He realized he could ask for input and trust others to share the burden rather than endure it solo. Feeling emboldened once more, Jake considered what challenges lay ahead. The stakes with the client were still high, but perhaps he could forge a path that transformed the ordeal into a pivotal learning experience, not just for him, but for the team. But as he contemplated his newfound approach, his phone buzzed again, and a sinking dread washed over him. He blinked at the screen. The last message was from his lead developer, directly addressing a catastrophic failure in the product launch. Could this rising tide of chaos pull him from the revelation he had just embraced? With a deep breath, Jake's resolve solidified once more. It wasn't just about facing this mess. It was about crafting a strategy, leaning into partnerships, and steering not only his company, but also his connections toward a brighter future. As he stared at Sarah, a question hung in the air. Was he ready to rekindle his professional dreams with her at his side? And as her encouraging smile steadied him amid the brewing storm, he wondered what moves he would make next. Would this budding relationship propel him into new territories or complicate the very chaos he sought to manage? Jake's mind swirled like the coffee in his cup. Each distraction became an echo of his worries, urging him to dwell on the chaos of the message he had just received. Yet the warmth radiating from Sarah was grounding, a tether to his emergent focus. He could allow the looming crisis to consume him, or he could embrace this moment of connection and creativity as a newfound lifeline. I can't just sit here and pretend everything's fine, he confessed slowly. The product failure, if that hit the client, we might lose more than just their business. Sarah leaned in, interest piqued. What exactly does that entail? It's not just about this one project, he explained, his voice betraying the weight of his responsibilities. It repercussions throughout the entire team. It's like Damocles' sword hanging above us. So it's not just a problem, it's a catalyst? She probed, her eyes unwavering. He took a deep breath. Yes, but not just for the negative. If we can turn this around, it could also mean an opportunity to rebuild trust, to innovate, and to actually involve the whole team in the solution, instead of just me muscling through the stress. Her smile brightened. Exactly. You sound like you're on the right path. What if you invite the team for a brainstorming session? Everyone brings their unique perspectives. It could spark something unexpected. The thought was exhilarating. Could he really step aside and integrate more voices into the conversation? The proverbial walls he had fortified around his leadership seemed to vibrate with possibility. A collaborative approach could yield not just creative solutions, but a renewed team morale. Okay, I could prepare a meeting agenda, he said, his mind racing to the specifics. We could articulate the issues, but frame them in a way that focuses on innovation, and then let everyone brainstorm on potential solutions, Sarah interjected, excitement threading through her voice. And maybe include some role-playing or scenario planning. It could build empathy for the client's position while also empowering them to offer concrete ideas. Jake nodded, intrigued. Role-playing? I've never done that in a professional setting. It could break the ice, encourage risk-taking in discussions. Right, you'd be surprised how it can change perspectives. Breaking from the norm leads to richer discussions. You might find brilliant insights from unexpected places. Jake felt a buzz of energy course through him. It was in these moments he realized that trust expanded and burdens felt lighter through shared purpose. What began as skepticism about involving others grew into curiosity. Could he actually shift his leadership style to be less about directive command and more about collaborative orchestration? Just then, another notification flashed on his phone. The dread bubbled up, tightening his chest again as a moment of panic gripped him. What if this next message escalate the chaos? Jake, Sarah's voice broke through his anxiety, you're letting the storm drown out a chance for clarity. Check it later. Right now, focus on your ideas. Sometimes brilliance is birthed in chaos. He took a deep breath, wrestling with himself, and finally decided to put the phone face down. You're right. I've been so afraid of failing that I forgot how to experiment, to explore options. Her smile was contagious. This is what innovation looks like, being willing to look beyond fear and dive into the unknown. You've got this. Jake felt the conviction seep into his bones. The storm was still raging, both inside and outside, but he could harness this turbulence into something productive. As the exchange continued, Jake knew he had a plan starting to crystallize in his mind, pieces inexplicably falling into place. A blend of teamwork and fresh energy might allow him to navigate through the looming disaster. But just as he started building his vision of an inspired team meeting, he recalled the last message he'd glanced at. The gravity of the crisis had not been fully addressed. Would the team even engage in this new framework he'd hoped to establish? And as he contemplated the discord lurking beneath the surface, doubt crept in. Were his aspirations merely idealistic, or could they be the shift that transformed his leadership? The road ahead was uncertain, yet a path towards re-engagement started to emerge. Would the team embrace this change, or would they resist the unfamiliar? In that tension, Jake felt the weight of his responsibilities settle more heavily than before. The following day was marked by a blend of anxiety and anticipation. Jake stood at the threshold of the conference room, his pulse quickening as he entered. The stylized furniture and sleek technology felt both alien and familiar. This was the stage for an experiment, a live demonstration of his new leadership approach. He arranged the seating in a circle rather than the traditional boardroom layout. It was a small but deliberate choice aimed at leveling the power dynamics. Everyone arrived, hesitating at first, eyes darting around the room. Was Jake truly inviting collaboration, or was this another corporate facade? "Thanks for coming, everyone," he started, his voice steady but his heart racing. "I know there's been a lot of uncertainty lately, especially with the product launch. Today, I want to shift our focus from problems to potential solutions, together." Murmurs rippled through the group, a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. He scanned the faces of his team, the quiet yet insightful analyst, the fiery marketing lead, and even the junior developer who had been more of an observer than a participant. Each of them had something to offer, and this meeting was their opportunity. He paused, fostering an environment of anticipation. "To kick things off, I'd like each of you to share what you're most concerned about moving forward. Following that, I want us to brainstorm solutions. Wild ideas are welcome." As they began to speak, Jake observed a transformation. Initially, the atmosphere was thick with caution. Then, as the first few concerns were articulated, something shifted. The employees began to share openly, their worries intertwined with creativity. Ideas began to flourish, tangled with laughter and exclamations of inspiration. Yet with every affirmation of participation, Jake's internal conflict nagged at him. Was he worthy of this leadership? Could he really let go of the reins? Each time one of his team members proposed a solution, he felt an urge to critique or steer the conversation back to his vision. He battled against it, reminding himself of the trust he was trying to build. "Let's try something different," he announced. "They're growing momentum. Let's split into pairs and role-play as the clients and the product team. This way we can explore frustrations and victories from both sides." There was hesitation. Uncertainty flashed across the faces of the group, but he encouraged them, his own apprehension rising with every moment of silence. Finally, they broke into pairs and began the exercise. Jake observed them, heart pounding with the fear of failure. Would this gamble resonate? And then, improbably, laughter erupted. Two of the team members reenacted a conversation where clients vented about their prior experiences with the product. The way they exaggerated frustrations led to insights, illuminating issues Jake hadn't anticipated. It felt liberating to witness their interactions. He was merely a facilitator of their voices, not the sole owner of ideas. The tension lifted, and camaraderie blossomed. However, just as hope began to flourish, a sinking thought arose. What if this experience didn't yield actionable outcomes? What would he say if they ended up with more questions than solutions? As the session concluded, Jake encouraged them to compile their insights. A collaborative document emerged digitally, full of ideas, concerns, and unexpected connections drawn from their role-playing exercise. Yet doubts still gnawed at him. Would these endless discussions lead anywhere concrete, or were they merely filling time in the face of impending failure? The weight of uncertainty loomed like a cloud overhead, threatening to cast a shadow over his enthusiasm. They had taken action, but would it be enough to turn the tide? In the aftermath of the meeting, Jake felt a surge of renewal. He had embraced vulnerability and empowered his team. Yet, with the clock still ticking, he realized the next move was crucial. Could they transform this collaborative spirit into an actionable strategy? More importantly, could he navigate the treacherous waters that lay ahead without retreating into the comfort of his old ways? As he sat down to dissect their ideas, a new notification buzzed on his phone. This time, a pang of foreboding wrapped around him. Perhaps this time it wasn't just another message, but a critical turning point. Would he embrace the uncertainty ahead, or would old instincts drag him back into the shadows? Jake's fingers hovered over his phone, the screen casting an unflattering glow on his face as he struggled to suppress the dread. Curiosity gnawed at him. He could either open the message, which could be significant, or he could let the unease fester, an indecisive showdown that mirrored his current leadership journey. Finally, he pressed his thumb to the screen, revealing a notification more alarming than anticipated. All staff meetings scheduled for tomorrow, attendance mandatory. His stomach churned. In the past, mandatory meetings heralded news of layoffs or changes in management. The prospect of losing more trust among his team sent a chill down his spine. Should he address this possibility head-on during his next interaction with the team? Would it be better to wait to protect them from unnecessary anxiety? The weight of uncertainty was a mental anchor, rooting him in place, but Jake recognized the path he'd chosen. He needed to be a bastion of transparency, even when the truth was daunting. With a sudden determination, he pulled up their collaborative document, forcing himself to engage with every suggestion that filled the virtual page. He began identifying the most innovative ideas. Each proposal felt like a breadcrumb leading him out of his isolated hesitation. As he read through the notes left by his team, glimmers of hope shone through the chaos of his anguish. One idea caught his eye: a customer engagement platform that was tailored to enhance user feedback in real time. Something within him stirred. The concept echoed with possibility. If they could successfully present this idea to upper management during the mandatory meeting, it could shift the tide back in their favor. As he juggled thoughts of logistics, the phone beeped again. This time, an incoming call from Sarah, the company's chief operations officer. The urgency in her voice was palpable when she answered. "Jake, did you see the meeting notice? It's not just about our team," she began, clearly agitated. "Executive-level decisions are on the table, along with projected budget cuts. We need to be prepared." The weight of her concern resonated, illuminating the precarious position Jake found himself in. Here was the challenge: to assertively present a plan that harnessed the insights from his team without succumbing to the fear of rejection. He mentally steeled himself for the looming confrontation, replaying in his thoughts the strength he had drawn from his team just hours prior. "Sarah, I think we should focus on the solutions that came from our brainstorming session. We have concrete ideas that could actually resonate with management," he replied, attempting to mask the tremor of uncertainty. There was silence on the line, her pacing now audible. "If they don't resonate with the higher-ups, it might put your strategy in jeopardy. We need to be realistic about our limitations." Her caution struck a chord of doubt, echoing the internal battle he had faced since leading this initiative. Jake felt a tug-of-war between his instincts to push ahead with innovation and the fear of jeopardizing everything he had worked for. "Let's focus on the feedback strategies, our real-time approach. We can frame it as a proactive response to their concerns," Jake proposed, gathering his resolve. This was his moment to forge a new path, one that demanded risk and vulnerability. As they discussed objectives, adrenaline coursed through him, a welcome contrast to the fear he had been fighting. Ideas were beginning to gel, but Jake's mind was also racing, aware that ambition could quickly lead to a misstep. Sarah's reticence unnerved him. Trust existed on a tightrope, and one miscalculation could send him crashing down. After hanging up, Jake stared at the blank wall in front of him and reflected. How could he definitively steer this ship forward without drifting into chaotic waters? Therein lay the crossroads, the prospect. Crux of his development, not just as a leader, but as a human capable of fostering, supporting, and integrating diverse perspectives into cohesive strategies. With a deep breath, he pulled everyone's insights into a single presentation. Tomorrow, they would face their fears together, each response intertwined with the potential for growth. But would reliance on his team's input be enough to persuade the judgmental executives? As the hours slipped away, he found himself at the cusp of sleep, mind miles away from rest. Questions loomed heavy. What if they saw his team as too inexperienced or reactive? The shadows of doubt wrapped tightly around him, whispering reminders of past failures. And then he remembered that each question was merely an opportunity veiled in uncertainty. Would he seize tomorrow's challenges, or would he allow his fears to dictate the tide of his vision? The buzz of contemplation was interrupted with a final notification, a calendar reminder popping up: mandatory meeting tomorrow. Renewed determination surged within Jake. The stakes were raised. and the time had come to confront the choices that not only affected his leadership, but defined the very essence of who he had become. As he prepared to close his laptop for the night, one last thought pierced through the chaos. What treasures or downfalls awaited him in the morning? The answer felt electric, and he couldn't shake the impending sense of transformation, ready to blossom or falter in the shadow of expectation. The fluorescent lights flickered as Joke stepped into the conference room the next morning, casting an uncomfortable glow over the faces gathered around the long table. A palpable tension hung in the air, thick and suffocating. He could sense their anxiety, each team member fidgeting, questions swirling in their minds like storm clouds. Jake cleared his throat, searching for the right words, desperate to instill some measure of calm amidst the chaos. "Thank you all for being here," he began, trying to project confidence. "I know there's a lot of uncertainty right now, but I believe in the ideas we've developed together. Today is about presenting our vision for the future and showing management that we not only understand the challenges, but are ready to tackle them head-on." He caught a glance from Lisa, one of the newer members of the team. Her eyes were hesitant, a mix of hope and fear. Despite his internal turmoil, Jake felt a flicker of responsibility ignite within him. This was his chance to be the leader they needed. The team had prepared diligently for this moment. As Jake transitioned into the presentation, he guided them through their collaborative ideas, passionately highlighting the potential of the customer engagement platform. The energy began to shift as he filled the room with examples, projecting confidence fueled by the collective effort of his team. Each slide was a testament to their ingenuity, weaving their individual contributions into a narrative that felt undeniably cohesive. Yet doubts danced at the periphery of his mind. Would the executives truly value his team's insights? Would they dismiss their hard work as naive? Each question gnawed at him, amplifying the stakes. He noticed Sarah shifting in her seat, her expression inscrutable. Her earlier hesitation echoed in his thoughts, contrasting sharply with his current resolve. As he reached the climactic point of the presentation, the frenetic energy appeared to draw the attention of his audience. Jake could sense their curiosity leaning in, their skepticism at least temporarily softened as he laid out the potential impact on customer satisfaction and loyalty. "Imagine engaging with our customers in real time, understanding their needs on a deeper level," Jake urged, his voice steady but passionate. "We have the ability to take feedback and not just respond, but anticipate their desires. This isn't just about survival. This is about leadership in our industry." He saw a flicker of interest in the eyes of the executives who had been critics of the team's capacity until now. His heart raced. Perhaps this wasn't just another moment of vulnerability, but an opportunity for awe-inspiring transformation, a chance to rewrite their collective narrative. Just then, the CTO, a figure who was known for his cold demeanor, raised a hand to interject. The room hushed, and Jake's gut twisted in anticipation. "Impressive presentation, Jake, but you must understand, we need solid metrics backing this. How do you intend to prove that these ideas will not only engage but retain our customer base?" The question hit him harder than expected. Panic surged momentarily, but then clarity settled in. "With your permission, I'd like to suggest a pilot program. Give us the chance to implement a focused version of this strategy with a select group of customers. We will measure success through engagement statistics and customer feedback." The executives exchanged glances, whispers of contemplation passing between them. Jake held his breath, at this moment suspended in a liminal space of hope and anxiety. Would they take a leap on the potential unveiled before them? Finally, he turned to Sarah, seeking her validation, desperate for a signal of support. What would it cost him if he stepped out boldly, risking it all on the trust he had fostered with his team? And then, as if in reply to his unspoken thoughts, he heard Sarah's voice break through the conversations. "I think it's worth exploring. Let's see how this works." A wave of relief washed over Jake, but it was tainted with realization. This was merely the beginning. His mind raced to the deeper implications of their discussion. If they succeeded, what true change might this usher in for him and his team? If they failed, what would that reveal about his leadership and their resilience? The meeting wrapped up with tentative optimism, yet doubts clung tightly as he left the conference room. The thrill of potential had ignited new uncertainties, leaving him grappling with a daunting truth. Today's success had merely scratched the surface of an evolving narrative. As he returned to his office, thoughts churned within him. He had committed to pushing boundaries, but was he ready for the consequences? The thrill of the unknown danced with foreboding shadows. What if the upcoming challenges pushed him further than he ever intended to go? Jake leaned back in his chair, his heart still racing. He had made the leap, but the real question loomed ominously. What would he uncover about himself and his team in this pursuit of progress? The sound of the clock ticking echoed in Jake's office, each second amplifying the weight of the decisions that lay ahead. The initial relief from the meeting had faded, replaced by a cacophony of what-ifs dancing around his mind. Would the pilot program be enough to convince the higher-ups? And more importantly, would his team rise to the challenge? As he sat there, the silence felt deafening, interrupted only by the hum of the overhead lights. Jake fished out his notebook, filled with rough outlines and creative sparks that had emerged during brainstorming sessions. Ideas sprawled across the pages, but now they felt like fragile hopes amidst looming pressure. He flipped through, searching for clarity, any semblance of direction that could guide him through this evolving maze. The binder clasped in his hands contained more than just notes. It was a testament to the collaborative spirit of his team, the trust they'd placed in each other. Closing his eyes, he could vividly picture each member's face, their commitment etched in every late-night work session and every early morning collaboration. The responsibility felt heavier now. He was not just pushing for a project, he was responsible for their dreams too. The realization jolted him. Leadership wasn't merely about presenting ideas, it was about fostering growth within others. Jake picked up his phone, hesitating for a moment before sending a message to Sarah. "Can we meet to discuss the next steps for the pilot program? I feel we need to strategize how to not only implement but also measure impact." He slammed the phone down, another wave of anticipation crashing over him. He was no longer waiting for permission. He was asserting his role and inviting his team to take ownership alongside him. It was an evolution from merely being a leader to being a catalyst for collaboration. He needed their insights to navigate this uncharted territory. Minutes later, Sarah entered his office, a questioning look on her face. "You called?" Jake gestured for her to sit. "I want us to have a solid plan. If we're going to take this leap, we need metrics, feedback channels, and strategies to handle the doubt that might arise from management." "I agree," Sarah said, her confidence flickering back to life. "We should anticipate questions from the executives and prepare to demonstrate the tangible value we'll bring to the organization." As they began to outline their approach, ideas flowed like water. Jake felt a part of himself awakening, a balance of confidence and vulnerability as he actively sought input from Sarah. Each suggestion she made was met with enthusiasm, a stark reminder of the synergy they had cultivated. However, an undercurrent of tension still loomed. What if he misjudged their capabilities? What if his vision didn't align with the team's strengths? The thought nagged at the back of his mind, drawing forth a chilling worry that echoed a familiar insecurity. "Jake," Sarah said, pulling him from his thoughts, "I see how you're more engaged than before. You're not just putting this on our shoulders, you're in this with us." A warmth spread through him. It was validation, but also a challenge, a reminder of his commitment to lead from the front, to embody the trust he had asked of others. He couldn't afford to falter now. With renewed purpose, they hammered out details, metrics for engagement, response strategies, and feedback loops that could be authentic and immediate. The synergy was invigorating, cementing their collective ownership over the project. As Sarah rose to leave, Jake felt a subtle shift within himself. This was not just about executing a plan, it was about evolving as a leader. But deep within, an unsettling thought intruded. Every leap of faith brought risks. What if the pilot program failed? What would that revelation mean for him and the trust he had built with his team? He was on the brink of something transformative. Could he face the impending test of resilience? With the weight of potential consequences pressing on his shoulders, Jake leaned over his notes once more. The next chapter of his story awaited, filled with challenges both daunting and exhilarating. The moment was near when he would truly confront the cost of ambition. What kind of leader would he become when the unthinkable surfaced? The morning sun spilled through the windows of Jake's office as he prepared for the crucial day ahead. The atmosphere felt charged, a mix of nervous anticipation and determination. Today marked the launch of the much-anticipated pilot program that he and his team had painstakingly crafted together. He glanced at the framed photos of Lily on his desk, each capturing her laughter and innocence. They reminded him of why he was willing to take risks, not just for his career, but for the future he hoped to forge for her. This was his moment to prove not only to his colleagues, but also to himself, that he could balance the roles of CEO and single father. As he entered the conference room, Jake found his team already engaged in hushed conversation. Their expressions reflected a blend of excitement and anxiety, but he felt an overwhelming sense of pride. They had transformed from hesitant individuals into a cohesive unit, prepared to take a bold step forward. He took a deep breath, recalling the vulnerable conversations they'd shared about their fears and aspirations. The collaborative spirit that had emerged over the past weeks activated a confidence within him that he hadn't felt in years. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his voice steady and clear. "Today marks a pivotal moment for our team and our company. We're launching our customer engagement pilot program, and we're doing it together. This is more than a program. It's a reflection of the trust we've built among ourselves." He sensed the team's spirit lift, their shoulders straightening, their eyes shining with purpose. He transitioned into the presentation, outlining the details while encouraging an open dialogue. Each team member shared their insights, revealing their unique perspectives and amplifying the collective vision. Ideas bounced around the room with electrifying energy, creating a tapestry of innovation greater than any one person could have conceived. Yet, as excitement built, a familiar trepidation crept into his thoughts. Would executive management embrace their vision, or would they dismiss it as idealistic fluff? Jake addressed these concerns head-on, discussing contingency plans and metrics for success, seamlessly integrating his team's suggestions while maintaining a strong leadership presence. The empowerment he'd extended to his colleagues made him realize that true leadership meant not just guiding, but also being open to learning from those around him. The presentation reached its climax as he invited questions. A few executives entered, and their skepticism projected like storm clouds. With every question, Jake felt pronounced pressure, the weight of expectation pressing down on him. But this time, he was not alone. His team rallied. They addressed concerns with poise and conviction, each voice strengthening the narrative they had woven together. "Jake, could this pilot program realistically deliver results in the expected timeline?" one executive queried, eyebrow raised. Instead of retreating to defensiveness, Jake felt a thrill of responsibility surge. "Every initiative carries challenges, but we've identified key milestones. If the response is positive, we anticipate measurable improvements in customer satisfaction within just 8 weeks of launch." He leaned into the confidence of the team's data, feeling emboldened by their competence and support. As the questions flowed, Jake's confidence intensified. He realized that he wasn't just advocating for a project, he was representing a collective journey of transformation, a testament to resilience, innovation, and the courage to embrace vulnerability. He witnessed a change in perception from his colleagues. Skepticism softened into genuine curiosity, an opening toward collaboration. After the meeting concluded, Jake felt buoyed by a renewed sense of purpose. They were embarking on a transformative journey, not just for the project, but for their culture. He could sense the tide turning, not only within their organization, but also within himself. That evening, when he returned home to Lily, he carried his triumph with pride. After reviewing the day's achievements, he sat down beside her and picked up the teddy bear they'd named Captain Eddie. "You know, today I learned something important. It's not about doing everything alone. It's about working together and being brave enough to ask for help." Lily looked up, her eyes wide with admiration. "Did you have fun, Daddy?" "I did," he replied, a smile breaking across his face. "And you know what? I think fun is even better when you share it with others." As he tucked her into bed, he reflected on the profound impact that this journey had on him personally. Embracing vulnerability had opened doors he never knew existed. He had learned that leadership wasn't simply about authority. It was collaborating with others, uplifting them, and trusting in their strengths. He had conquered the shadows of self-doubt that had long lingered, transforming them into pathways of growth and self-discovery. The following weeks would bring challenges, and he knew he would face them not as an isolated leader, but as part of a resilient team united in pursuit of their vision. With each step forward, Jake felt an unshakable sense of accomplishment, both in his leadership role and in nurturing the beautiful life he shared with Lily. This was not merely the conclusion of one journey, it was the launch of another. Jake stood at the cusp of a new chapter, one filled with promise, excitement, and a heightened capacity to create the life he dreamed for himself and his daughter. If you've resonated with Jake's incredible journey of transformation, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for heartwarming stories of personal triumph. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep uplifting narratives like this alive. We want to hear from you. Comment your thoughts, reactions, or predictions about Jake's impactful journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need inspiration in their lives. Together, let's continue this mission of transformation and connection.